Well, hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Oh, that's nice. It is so good to be back here with all of you again. And there's no question that a lot has happened since we were here last year. We had an election. I don't know if you wanted it. I didn't want it, but nobody out there that I know wanted one. That was the election where we were all digging our signs out of snowbanks. Yeah. Opening our doors to volunteers in freezing weather. Look, I gotta say, if there's one thing that I actually envy about municipal politicians, it's your fixed election dates. But look, if you saw the news before the holidays, it is true that I got kicked out of the legislature for calling the government corrupt. So I do want to promise I'm going to watch my language today. But I also want to tell you this. I am not going to stand here and talk about China and distract from what you and what communities and people all across the province of Ontario are facing. Because I really feel that a lot of what's been going on lately, and there's some big and important decisions being made that are going to impact a lot of people in our communities. But I listen really carefully to what you tell me in your delegations. And what I'm hearing about is crumbling roads and government overreach and blue bins not getting collected and highways that are not safe and absolutely a jobs disaster that's unraveling right before us. And I'm also hearing that you're the ones who are having to bear a lot of the burden of that. And I'm going to get back to that in a minute. But I really wanted to start the way I always do by saying thank you. Thank you for the work that you do every single day, building strong communities all across rural Ontario. Thank you. Merci pour le travail que vous faites tous les jours pour bâtir des communautés fortes partout à travers les régions rurales de l'Ontario. You are the mayors, you are the councillors, you are the reeves, the wardens, the people who show up. You do not get to pass the buck. You don't get to do a photo op and then leave, right? You do the work. And I want you to know that I see you et je vous vois. And I also want to say that on behalf of our whole caucus, because they're here in the room today, scattered throughout the room here, MPPs from the Ontario NDP caucus from every single corner of this province. And they've been listening to you as well. Now, before I go any further, I want to mention that something that's really important to me personally, and that is the work that is being done by the women of Ontario Say No. Yeah. Look, and I know that the intent of that is not just to protect elected officials, but running for office is hard enough. But for too many, the harassment, the threats, the abuse, and I don't just mean, I also mean outside of the council chamber, right? It has made it unbearable for many people. And I know that some of you are wondering if you're really going to run again in this next electoral cycle. And I want to say this clearly to each and every one of you. We need you. Your communities need you, and we want to see you reelected, okay? So do it. And I really believe that every elected representative should be held to the same standard as every other working Ontario. Safe at work, no exceptions. And let me tell you, as the mother of young adults, the next generation is watching us, right? Now, I want to go back a bit because you'll remember that last year I talked a bit about when John Vantoff and I had actually shout out to John Vantoff, folks. What an amazing representative in our legislature. But when John and I visited the municipality of Tweed, like the trips that I've made across the province to many of you, well, since then, Mayor DeGenova has taken us out to see some of his infrastructure challenges up close and personal. Roads that have exceeded their service life. Bridges, I think it's 57 bridges that need replacing. The kind of work that I know keeps mayors like Dawn up at night and many of you. And let me tell you, I know that those bridges aren't nice to haves. They are literally holding up communities. And municipalities like Tweed and so many of your communities cannot hold those up alone anymore. Yeah, see, you're feeling it, I know. Because here's what's happening across rural Ontario right now. And again, I don't need to tell you this, but you are being asked to do more with less. Build more homes. The province hasn't built a single home. They've attacked farmland. They've attacked municipal planning. Fix homelessness. The province isn't there with the support that you need. Maintain hundreds of kilometers of roads and dozens of bridges. Cost-sharing models have collapsed, and you are paying 100% upfront now. And when you raise property taxes just to keep the lights on, you are the ones who get blamed for it. And that's not fair, but it's also not sustainable. I want to talk a little bit more about homelessness because you've seen the reports. You know it, again, up close and personal, the numbers are stark. Homelessness grew in rural Ontario by 30% last year. And we know who's left picking up the pieces. It's all of you. With no capacity, with no real support, and no provincial plan. And you know, I gotta say, we hear a lot about enforcement these days. You know, tickets, fines, moving people along. But I don't believe we can enforce our way out of a homelessness crisis. The only solution to homelessness is to get people the help and the housing that they need, and the private market alone is not going to do that. You know it, we know it, and we need a province that acts like it knows it too. Now, I want to talk about highways. Particularly, I want to talk for a minute about highways 11 and 17. I know I don't have to tell our northern friends here this, but when those highways close, communities are cut off, and they are closing more and more and more. Winter maintenance challenges are growing. In Nipigon, I was just hearing this again, but when closures happen, trucks back up through residential streets. Emergency vehicles can't get through. People can't even leave their driveways. I want you to know that this is on our minds, and we're doing something about it. Our official opposition caucus introduced the Northern Highway Safety Act to staff weigh scales, to improve enforcement, and to bring winter maintenance back under public control. But I want to tell you, we didn't just introduce it once. We have introduced similar legislation 4 times now since 2018. 4 times. And every single time it gets voted down by the Ford government. Look, I don't get it, because how is highway safety a partisan issue? It is not. It is not a partisan issue. It is about keeping people safe and alive. It is about getting to school. It is about getting to work. It is about getting to your medical appointments. And man, let's talk about nation-building projects. It is about transporting the goods that keep our economy going, right? So let me tell you, and I really believe this, if more of the, I'm going to say it, MPPs, and particularly Conservatives at Queen's Park in Toronto, had to drive on those roads to get to work every day, they would already have been fixed, right? So look, I also know what you're living with right now. I mean, I was saying backstage that when I come here every year, I've already kind of workshopped what I want to say, listening to all of you over the year, but when I hear from the delegations, there's always some new twist, some new element. But you're being told that funding depends on loyalty. This is something I keep hearing. And I know it's something we don't like to talk about too loud, so I'm going to talk about it. That if your community didn't vote the right way, you're at the back of the line. That if you want infrastructure money, you better hire the right lobbyist, the one with the right connections, the one who knows the right minister. Well, let me tell you, that is not how we should be doing business in the province of Ontario. And you shouldn't have to spend the money that you need to fix your infrastructure to hire the right lobbyists. You shouldn't have to twist yourselves into knots writing applications you know may never even get read unless you voted conservative last time. You come to us with plans, and I gotta tell you, it's a bit like Groundhog Day every year here, right? We're doing our municipal speed dating, and the plans that you come forward with are so strong and so good. You have the research, you have the data, you do everything right. But when you go to the government, you get told, not this time. Again, that's not how we should be doing business in Ontario. Promises were made about infrastructure a year ago in that election, but cost sharing disappeared. You deserve better than this. You deserve a partner at Queen's Park, not a government that only shows up if you voted the right way, not a government that makes you compete with each other for the scraps, not a government that treats funding like it's favors. Because you aren't looking for charity, you are looking for partnership. Partnership. And here's what I believe. I believe that previous governments took you for granted for years, and that the government today is doing the same thing. And as long as both of those parties think that rural Ontario is always going to vote one way or the other, absolutely nothing changes. But when you demand more, when you say, we deserve better, when you refuse to accept being treated like this, that is when things change. And I tell you, we want to be a part of that change with you. And I want you to know it's something very personal for me. I mean, a few people have said to me, what's changed lately, Mara? Like, why are you getting so worked up? Well, you know what? I grew up in a rural community in Newfoundland. And this kind of politics, I grew up believing that it was a thing of the past. I want to tell you something that I believe very deeply and very personally. I believe that government decisions can change lives. I've seen it. I've seen it in my life, in the communities I grew up in, and I see it now in Manitoba, in British Columbia. They absolutely can change lives with the decisions that are being made. That bridge in Tweed, an Ontario NDP government would fix that bridge and the 56 other bridges that need fixing. And the young person who grew up in your community who wants to stay there and build a good life in your community, the Ontario NDP government would give them a real shot. Because you know what we wouldn't do? We wouldn't be letting community college satellite campuses fold like we're seeing today in communities all across this province. And by the way, thank you for raising your voices about that. The senior who has worked their whole life and is looking for peace of mind in retirement, an Ontario NDP government would prioritize that and make that possible. And the family of 4 who is paying more for groceries every single month, we could fix that. Government decisions change lives. And it is time that we had government that used that power for regular people, for working people, and for you, right? Now, thank you. I talked about it last year, and I'm going to say it again. We are going to deliver a new deal for municipalities. We know what needs to happen. A plan that uploads costs that the province has downloaded again and again onto you, like homelessness supports, like healthcare, like roads that the province used to maintain. A plan that restores predictable, fair funding so you're not scrambling every year wondering if the money is actually going to come. We also have a housing plan, Homes Ontario, that actually includes rural communities. And can I just say, every other province in this country has something like Homes Ontario. We have a federal government coming forward with funding, and we are not prepared. We are not going to get a piece of that unless we have something like Homes Ontario ready to take that on. We also have a plan to strengthen winter highway maintenance and public oversight, as I talked about, and we have a plan to end homelessness. And we're going to fight to make sure that when you invest in your community, You've got a real partner at Queen's Park who shows up, not just at election time, but every single day. That's how we can build a more affordable and a more healthy and a safer Ontario. Now look, before I wrap up, I wanted to try something with you. So can I ask you to raise your hand if this sounds familiar to you? Raise your hand if you've gotten a call from a small business owner who is dealing with someone in a mental health crisis right now, maybe outside on the main street or maybe in their own lives. And they're asking you, what am I supposed to do about that? And then, keep your hand up or raise your hand if you've gotten an email from a resident who can't find a family doctor or a nurse to provide primary care. Yeah. Raise your hand if someone has called you about the emergency room or the healthcare center being closed or on diversion, right? Or with wait times so long they gave up and went home. That is what I am hearing from you every day. Raise your hand if you're worried about what it's going to cost you next year, this time, when you get the bill from the OPP, right? Yeah. I knew I'd get a good response on that one. I've been listening today. But, you're picking up the phone. You're answering the emails. You're showing up at the meetings. You are trying to fix the problems that the province created. And you are trying to do it with no money, with no support, and with no provincial plan. You didn't run for council to manage a mental health crisis. You didn't run for council to recruit doctors and nurse practitioners with very little support from the government. And you certainly didn't run for council thinking it was going to be on your shoulders to try to keep emergency rooms open. But here you are. You're doing it anyway because somebody has to. Look, I don't mess around anymore. I'm asking for your support because I believe that when we form an Ontario NDP government, and I'm just saying, I hope that we'll have 4 years, but I'll be ready in 2 years if we need to. We're going to make sure that you're not left holding the bag for provincial failures anymore. And if you're ready to be part of that change now, reach out. Let's talk and let's work together. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Merci. Thank you. Let's talk. I hope to see you all running again in the next election. Thank you.